Hello guys, today we will discuss about the topic how interim budget is different from full budget. Now we are already familiar with the word budget as it is as we make a budget in our personal life, and the most important thing, that is government budget. And we from the childhood days we always seen our parents to see this budget session seriously, and they are really worried about it. So today we will get to know why they are so worried about this budget session of this government budget session, and we will see the details about this, and also we will see why it is so important. So let's start with the topic. First of all, we will see the interim budget. Now, as we have already seen our parents in the from the childhood days watch this budget discussion on television, in similar way Rohan also seen every year in the month of February. His parents also watch this union budget, the budget discussions on television for hours. He actually wondered always that what is the important in the government budget. Now, what is budget in simple language? In simple words, budget is nothing but a plan for spending our money. Now, actually, it is a document. We can take as a document or a written plan that lists the money we have earned and where we have to spend our expenditure, spend our money in near future. Now this young boy have a question that we already have a budget in our at our home. So then why what is the importance of the government budget? Why they are so worried about this government budget? Now they have he have decided, this young boy has decided that during this budget presentation he will ask his father what is the about the importance of it. Now, as a result, Rohan asked his father, and his father also told him that our home has our own budget. In the same way, government also have. Now, his father also told him that we know that our parents is the caretaker of the house. In the same way, the government is the caretaker of the entire country. His parents also require income to run the house. In the similar manner, government also needs income to run the entire country. Now from these things, Roshan got an idea about the budget. Now, his father also said him that government budget affects the people in many ways. Like, we can take that government decide that the tax on our income, and also decide on the prices of goods and services we buy, and if we required for any new schemes for our well-being. Now, India's central government presents the union budget every year, and it is the one financial event during the year that draws the attention of everyone in the country. People get to know various things from a budget, such as we can take as the prices of the goods, services, taxes, new schemes by the government, etc., which are many hidden terms in budgetary language that we do not know, and Rohan's that also explains him. Now we will see the next part. Now in the next part we will see the annual budget or the union budget of India. Now, for understanding the meaning of interim budget, we have, first of all, we have to understand and know about the annual budget or the union budget. So India, a new financial year begins on 1st April and ends on 31st March on the next year. As it is widely believed that since the Hindu festival of Baisakha, the Hindu New Year, falls in April, the government decided to mark it as the start of the financial year. Now, what is Union Budget? We will see briefly that, and the Union Budget is said that it is divided into two parts. First of all, the first part details all the expenses and the income of the government in the previous year, and the next part talks about the government's plan for the upcoming financial year. Now, this future plan includes the ways in which the government is planning to raise money and spend its money. So this is about the annual or Union Budget of India. Now let's see. Now let's get to the next part. Interim budget and what is the need of this interim budget. So let's see the need, actually the importance of this interim budget. So let's see. In India, we have a general Lok Sabha election after 5 years, where a departing government could elect it out and the new incoming government could reject their budget. Now, as a result, this interim budget is actually assist in filling this void. Now, which it also enables the existing administration to have a framework in place to meet the country's economic demand throughout this transitional phase. Now, this interim, what is the meaning of interim? Interim is actually referred to as the temporary or something which is for a short period of time between two or particular events, which actually allows the outgoing company to have a system in place for the transition period to fulfill the country's economic needs. Now, the government tries not to announce any major reforms or announcement during this interim budget. Now, however, this outgoing governments need actually the approval of the parliament to spend the consolidated fund of India to sponsor its budget expenses. Now, this interim budget documentation of the expenses and earning of the government. Now, this outgoing plans to make all these expenses valid for not more than 6 months actually. Now, this approval is taken from form of votes from the member of parliament, and we already know that parliament must be approve the budget so that they can spend this money in various things to well-being for people. So let's see the next part. In the next part, we will see how is the interim budget different from annual budget. So let's see in details this part. So in this part, we will see the annual budget is the budget of the government for the previous financial year, and it also contains the expenses and income of the previous year. For the outgoing government, it is better to come up with an interim budget for 4 to 6 months because this union budget is applicable for the entire fiscal year. Now, this government also mentions only the basic expenses to be made for the future till the time the incoming government introduces the new budgets. So, this is how interim budget is different from the annual budget. Let's see the next part. Now in this part we will see there is a question that is the vote on account and the interim budget the same? So what will be your answer, guys? Think about it. Obviously the answer will be no. No, the vote account on and the interim budget are the two terms. We can think of this in the term of a pizza. The interim budget is the entire pizza, and then the vote on account is just a slice of the pizza. Now, the interim budget is actually a complete financial statement for the government, which includes all the expenses, earnings and the policies changes of the outgoing governments. Now this vote on accounts is a permission given by the parliament to spend money, which approval is given in the form of these votes. So whereas this accounts includes not only the expenses of the budgets, includes only the expense of these budgets. So let's see the next part. So in the next part we will see the 14 interim budgets presented in India. So let's see. The interim budget is usually introduced once in 5 years before general Lok Sabha elections. Now all the interim budgets that were implemented in India till date, we will see this list now. The first interim budget was presented in 1947 by R.K. Shanmugham Chetty. Now the second interim budget was presented in 1952 by C.D. Deshmukh. Now the third interim budget was presented in 1957 by T.T. Krishna Machari. Now next come to the fourth interim budget was presented in 1962 and in 1967 by Morarji Desai. Next let's come to the fifth interim budget was presented in 1971 by Y.B. Chavan. Let's come to the sixth interim budget was presented in 1977 by Haribhai M. Patel. And then come to the seventh one. Seventh interim budget was presented in 1980 by R.K. Venkataram. Now the eighth one is presented in 1991 by Yashwant Singh, and the ninth one was presented in 1991 by Dr. Manmohan Singh, and again in 10th interim budget was presented in 1998 again by Yashwant Singh. Now let's come to the 11th interim budget was presented in 2004 by Jashwant Singh. Now in the 12th interim budget was presented in 2008 by Pranab Mukherjee. Next, the 13th interim budget was presented in 2014 by P. Chidambaram. The 14th interim budget was in was present in 2019 by Piyush Goyal. So this is the 14th interim budget presented in India. Let's see the next part. Now here we will conclude this part that interim budget presented when there is the upcoming elections in the country. Just like the annual budget, it is the final report card of the government. Now, however, it is also different from the annual budget in some of the ways. Now, the interim budget is not valid for more than 6 months as opposed by the annual budget. Now, the annual budget is applied to the entire upcoming financial year. Now, interim budget allow for a smooth transition between governments. So this is the conclusion of this topic. Here we have concluded this topic, and our topics ends here, but we will discuss some frequent asked questions. That can the state government introduce an interim budget? The answer will be yes. The option to present an interim budget is open to state government as well. When the state elections are held, the interim budget is helpful to fulfill the needs of the economy. During this transition of power between the incoming and outgoing governments. Now next we can have a simple questions that how many interim budgets have been presented in India? Since 1947, a total of 14 interim budgets have been presented in India. The most recent interim budget was presented before the general elections of 2019 on 1st February. On 1st February by acting the Finance Minister Piyush Goyal. Now next come to the third questions. Under which article the Indian Constitution is the vote on account present? Now this answer will be vote on account is mentioned under Article 116 of the Indian Constitution. Now in what situation is the interim budget presented? The interim budget is presented when there is an upcoming elections in the country. The interim budget actually fills the gap during the transition period of the outgoing and incoming government. So we also have more questions that number 5. Does interim budget include the policies and plans of the government? Answer will be yes. If necessary, the interim budget can change or introduce policy measures. However, all the interim budgets presented till date in India have avoided announcing any major changes or schemes, as it could be a burden for the incoming government. Now let's come to the sixth question. Where does the word budget came from? The word budget came from the French word baguette, which means leather bag in French. Now we might have a questions that is the most important questions, and we have already just go through it. That is, what is the difference between annual and an interim budget? Now the answer will be an annual budget is valid for the entire fiscal year, whereas this interim budget is valid for only a few months till a new government takes charge. And the last one is the interim budget presented only before an election. The answer will be absolutely yes. An interim budget is present only before an upcoming election in the country. So this is here we have come to an end of this topic. So guys, hope this video will be helpful for you, and thank you for listening. Stay with us, stay tuned, and keep watching our video. Thank you guys, thank you so much.